6:45 now, 1320 WILS. So the market's down again today, 1,000 points now for the Dow in just this week. One of the worst opening weeks in history. Let's talk to Clark Hodges, financial strategist at HodgesCapital.com. Clark, great to have you here.
Hey, great to be on. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, and what did you think of this week, this drop day after day?
I don't like it, obviously. I mean, we're long the market. We're long-term investors. But when you start out the year like that, it kind of gives you a bad taste in your mouth. A lot of people, tell you how January goes, so goes the rest of the year. So from that standpoint, you hope that it turns around. But the cause is directly related to China, and that to me is really not a good enough reason to be selling stocks.
Now, why is that? Do you think that's a temporary problem in China?
In our business in particular at Hodges Capital, we invest in domestic companies, small mid-cap companies that are only doing business in the United States primarily. And so it's just not going to affect their earnings. And so from the standpoint of when you have a week like this where basically everything comes down, then you recognize that, hey, company A last week was trading at this price. This week it's 8% below that. It's the same company. They have zero exposure to China. It's probably a good time to add to that position.
Nice.
So, you don't feel good when the market's down, but you do recognize that it's important to stick to your process.
Right.
And buy good companies when you think they're on sale.
Is that what you did this week? Or were you buying additional stocks? Or?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We bought additional stocks. You do have a sense of fear or nervousness doing it, and that's probably a healthy thing because you don't like the market just selling off every single day. But you do stick to that process and say, look, if this company has zero exposure to China, their earnings are such and such, and now you can buy it cheaper. You go ahead and do it.
So what happens then next week and later this month? If things continue to go down, is there a point where you say, look, there's something changing here, we need to get out, or how are you going to address it?
Well, you always got to be aware of, kind of a 2008 type recession. I don't think we're in the financial conditions of a recession at all. And you can argue that the energy sector is in a recession, so maybe a sector or two in our economy is in a recession. But when you had a run on the bank, so to speak, like you did in 08, that's hard to see coming. So anything that may be actually going to happen, it's going to be hard to see that coming. Nobody saw the drop in oil prices as fast as it happened. So you do want to be aware and look at the market from a macro standpoint and top-down standpoint and say what's going on in the market. But even if that were to happen, you're still looking at businesses and how well those businesses are doing.
The individual stock. One last thing. When you I know you can't predict the year, but do you assess what kind of a year you're anticipating?
You like to try to do that in a sense because you do planning, and we have salesmen that do planning and things like that. And you do try to take the temperature of the investment advisor out there in the country. And most people are predicting a down year. Most people are predicting a flat year or down year. I tend to be a little bit more optimistic and go with an election year is usually a decent year. And so I haven't seen a lot of people say, the market should be okay because we're in an election year. And so, this year with the security issue hanging over our heads, that may be a little different. But I expect a normal up 8 to maybe 10% type year. But I don't expect it to be easy, and I think it's something you got to really look for good value and be smart and disciplined and buy. But I do look for a positive year.
Financial strategist Clark Hodges, HodgesCapital.com. Find him there. Hey, Clark, thank you.
Yeah, good to be on. Have a good weekend.
You too.